The galaxy expected Earth to plead, to posture, to pick a side. Instead, Earth looked up and said nothing. That silence was the first mistake the galaxy made. Lysa 9. Outer Human Colony, Galactic Standard Cycle 3482.99. The sky was too quiet. Above, the forested cliffs of Lysa 9, twin suns cast golden light across emerald hills and crystalline rivers. Children laughed, splashing through the shallows. Farmers in light exosuits hauled crates of biocrop to the outpost dock. Birds chirped, machines hummed. No one noticed the shadows stretching across the ground. Not at first. Then came the low, unnatural rumble, deep and mechanical, like the growl of some ancient beast. The waters trembled. The sky darkened above the colony. 5 Varnock dreadships eclipsed the sun. Each was the size of a Terran Megacity, shaped like crescent blades with glowing spinal weapons that pulsed red. They moved slowly, arrogantly, as if savoring the fear. Interstellar comms buzzed to life, broadcasting wideband messages in over 400 dialects. Earth, you have refused alliance. You have rejected tribute. You will now be shown consequence. At the edge of the colony, a little girl clutched her father's coat. "Papa," she whispered, "are those stars falling?" He looked up. No stars, just ships, predator-sized and far too close. Uncommand relay, Earth Orbit Commander, UN, stood in silence, watching the live feed. "They really did it," she muttered, tone even. "They sent a fleet." Her second in command, LT Reyes, swallowed. "Should we respond?" "Already did." UN nodded to a technician. "Activate Tower 0. No panic, no screaming. Just a single authorization code sent through a quantum uplink Lysa 9 surface." Seconds later, one of the Varnak ships opened fire, not at a target, but into the jungle. A high-yield plasma bolt vaporized A-coms. Relay and 2 square kilometers of uninhabited hillside. A warning shot. Civilians screamed. Sirens blared. Shields flickered on. Then, silence. The Varnak ships halted, waiting for Earth to cry out, to beg, to plead for mercy. Instead, a blue beam lanced up from the jungle. No one saw where it came from. There was no countdown, no visible launch platform, just a flash blinding and impossibly fast that reached orbital altitude in 0.003 seconds. The Varnock flagship Fortress class was erased. No explosion, no fireball, just missing, atomized from prow to engine. One moment it was there, the next, a perfect hole in the formation, debris vaporizing as it fell into atmosphere. The other 4 ships scrambled. Screams echoed across their bridges. Systems went dark. Targeting arrays failed. And still, Earth did not reply. Galactic Core news broadcast. 48 hours later, across thousands of worlds, the footage played on repeat. The image of that one perfect line, pure light, stabbing upward, a dreadship vanishing in its wake. Analysts argued. Military leaders debated. Conspiracy theorists spun wild tales about wormhole weapons, quantum singularities, anti-reality tech. None of them could explain it, because Earth didn't explain anything. Back on Lysanine, the children had stopped crying. The skies had cleared. The jungle where the beam had come from was quiet again. Still, no launch site remained. No crater. Just trees, swaying in the breeze. "Papa, they're not falling anymore." "No," he said softly, wrapping his arms around her. "They're not." They called it a glitch, a freak accident, an impossible strike, until Earth never denied it and never explained it. That was when fear began to grow. In silence, Varnak, High Command, Sector 19, Warship Graveblood Fleet, Admiral Core, stepped into the holographic war table chamber, his scales flushed dark with stress. In front of him, flickering projections of the Lysanine incident. Pause, rewind, enhance. No matter how many times they played it, the footage remained the same. One beam, one shot, One ship gone. This isn't a defense system, his weapons expert rasped. It's precision planetary execution. There was no warning lock, no trace signature, just a blue spike in death. Then it was luck, Core growled. A fluke shot. Fire enough rocks into the sky, and one will land. The others said nothing, because they'd seen the telemetry. It wasn't random. It struck the Varnak flagship's command bridge, dead center. Subatomic clean, timed within 6 microseconds of the warning shot. Someone on Earth had waited, measured, calculated, and then answered. Earth orbit, UN Tactical Command. Midnight Net Commander UN watched the same footage, not in confusion, but in grim certainty. There? Response will come in hours, she said. Fleet asked Reyes. 30 ships, minimum, probably cloaked behind Jupiter already. They'll test us again. Do we tell the world? UN shook her head. Not yet. Let them sleep. Let the Varnak be the ones who wake up afraid. Jovian orbit, Varnak Armada, 30 ships strong. The stars above Jupiter were quiet. That alone was suspicious. 30 ships, running cold, waited at the edge of Sol. Cloaked drones crept ahead. Surveillance arrays scanned every inch of Earth's orbital grid. No defense platforms. No satellite weapons. No emission spikes. The command ship's bridge hissed with chatter, scanning anomalized neutrino noise from Mars. Possibly camouflaged heat vents. Begin forward maneuver. Admiral Core ordered, prepare to hold orbit above Earth, and demand unconditional surrender. The moment he said it, the stars began to disappear, 1, 2, 5, 15, 1 by 1. Ships began blinking off the fleet's internal tracker. No explosions, no impacts. Just offline. Crew screamed into comms. No answers. Shields up. Too late. Ship number 17 vented atmosphere. Frozen crew, still strapped in. Ship number 9's hull curled inward, as if bitten by invisible jaws. Core's command ship. Lost power. Every screen turned black, except one. This is restraint. Earth 2, 3 hours later, black box, barely larger than a suitcase, drifted past Luna Station. No ships escorted it. It wasn't transmitting anything until a Terran drone collected it. Once opened, it projected a simple hologram, 30 ships, red dots, then blacked out. No explanation, no threats, just a timestamp and a voice message. .com and female, Earth will not be invaded. Further attempts will be corrected. Galactic Senate emergency session, 5 days later, hysteria, arguments, accusations. Some said Earth had violated ancient treaties of proportional response. Others claimed Earth had used forbidden tech black hole spikes, temporal phase weapons, but Earth had said nothing. Again, Ambassador Welsh of the Aethan Confederacy stood and spoke above the chaos. This was not escalation. It was containment, a retaliation we cannot trace or match. They should answer for it. A Varnak delegate snarled. Welsh leaned forward, voice trembling. They already did. 30 ships went in. 0 came back. No wreckage. No distress calls. No memorials. Just silence. So complete, it felt deliberate. And in that silence, the galaxy began to whisper. Zaire-class listening post, outer edge, Varnak space deep, in an asteroid belt far from Earth. A silent observation station blinked to life. Signal detected. The automated watcher droned. Incoming data packet. Origin, Sol system. Source, unknown. Size, 1.2 megacodes. Format, compressed, unlocked. The technicians gathered around. The transmission was unmarked, without header or encryption, and yet it bypassed their firewalls. As if they weren't even there. The lights dimmed. The console screen turned black. Then -30 red dots appeared, each labeled with the call sign of a Varnak warship. Each flickered, then faded to black. All except one. Ship 01, Graveblood. Status, unknown. Last ping, Sol orbit. Then, a final message scrawled across the bottom of the display. In Cold Terran Standard, they did not suffer. No visuals, no explanation. Just the certainty that 30 capital-class warships had vanished without conflict, without resistance. And most terrifying of all, without a trace. Deep space near Pluto's orbit, drifting silently. A single black object tumbled end over end through the void, roughly 2 meters long, carbon-cased, heat-shielded. A Terran black box. It was picked up by a neutral Kaitari scavenger. Ship Karis then panicked once it cracked the file inside. The ship's pilot immediately sold the contents to a dozen information networks. Within 12 hours, every major galactic power had seen the same footage. Classified playback, Sol incident footage, viewpoint, exterior drone, low orbit above Earth, timestamp, GMT 317 footage. 30 Varnok ships enter Sol system, next frame, Earth's planetary. Defense grid activates but nothing launches. Then, anomalies ripple across space. Each ship one after another folds inward. No energy spikes, no thermal trails. Like stars collapsing into themselves. Clean, controlled. Then the final shot, the command ship. Graveblood simply blinks out of existence. The frame holds. A deep mechanical hum plays beneath the silence. Then, static. End of file. Galactic Archive broadcast. The missing armada within days. The mystery goes viral across the galaxy. Our fleet was reassigned to covert operations. Rumors of destruction or misinformation. But independent analysts are already mapping trajectory logs. None match. Civilian probes in Sol report no known ship exits after the incursion. There's no movement, no transmissions. Just absence. It becomes a cultural phenomenon. A legend. Whispers rise in backroom meetings, black market ports. Even among smugglers and ex-soldiers. They didn't kill the fleet. They removed it. Earth has weapons we don't even understand. What if they didn't destroy them? What if they're being held somewhere? Fear, once limited to military brass, now spreads like infection through the common people of the galaxy. Earth Lunar Observatory. Classified Tower Commander, UN, watched the latest alien broadcasts. Some called her a war criminal. Others called Earth a myth. She turned to Reyes. Do you hear it? Hear what, ma'am? The silence. She leaned forward, eyes narrowing at the blank Sol Star chart. They're not probing us. They're not flying over. No recon. No spies. Not anymore. Reyes frowned. They're regrouping. UN shook her head slowly. They're praying. The Varnak wanted proof, so they sent ghosts to Titan lead silent, unseen. They expected to find Earth's secret weapon. What they found made them beg their leaders to never return. Varnak, infiltration craft, Titan insertion point, the ice. Moon loomed beneath them, shrouded in storm clouds and methane fog. Titan spun in silence, its yellow atmosphere hiding what the galaxy now feared. Whatever Earth was building, for Varnak shadow operatives descended in atmospheric entry pods, undetectable, silent, riding in on the electromagnetic blind spot Earth, left exposed on purpose. This is their blind edge, the squad leader rasped. Their mistake. None of them spoke again for hours. Surface, Earth Research Complex 7A. Titan buried beneath 50 meters of ice and basalt. The Terran facility was barely visible on approach, just a sliver of matte black steel protruding from a ridge. There were no guards, no sensors, no drones. Too easy. The Varnak team entered through an exhaust port. Immediately. Something was wrong. The lights were on. The air was warm, and deep below, machines were humming, as if waiting. Interior Terran Research Wing. They moved silently past glowing consoles, automated labs, dormant reactors. Holograms of schematics flickered along glass walls, some labeled in Earth Standard, others in languages no Varnak had ever seen. A room labeled Project Horizon, Multiversal Simulation Protocols, revealed looping videos of alien planets, some in galaxies no one had catalogued. Another room, Anti-entropy Fields, Containment Stable, a sphere hovered mid-air, surrounded by quantum stabilizers. Inside, something moved, against the flow of time. They were staring at experiments that broke known physics. And Earth had left the doors unlocked. "This can't be real," one operative whispered. "They're rewriting the laws." A low hum filled the air, then a voice. "Unauthorized access logged. You may proceed." They froze. "Did it just give us permission?" the squad leader said. The voice came again. "Yes, you're being watched." Observation chamber, above Titan's core reactor. They were herded without violence into a viewing platform. Screens came to life on every wall, and they saw it. War footage. From Earth, not against aliens. Against themselves. AI uprisings. Orbital bombardments. Nations burning. Bioplagues. Humans launching ships through wormholes filled with fire. Building doomsday engines not to conquer but to survive themselves. And every piece of it was real. Logged, documented, time-stamped. "We are not what you feared," the voice said. "We are what you forgot still existed. We built these weapons to make sure no one had to use them again." Exit Titan surface. When the Varnak infiltrators returned to their extraction pod, there was a crate inside. No traps, no bombs. "Take this back, tell them what you saw, ask them what they didn't see." The crate contained schematics, not weapons, not threats, just knowledge, and a map highlighting all the Terran facilities across the galaxy that had already been visited and left unscathed. Varnak War Council, emergency debrief. The operatives kneeled before the high seat, faces pale and trembling. "What weapon do they wield?" the Varnak Chancellor demanded. One of the infiltrators looked up, eyes wide with something far worse than fear. "Curiosity," he whispered. "They don't need war, they outgrew it. That's why we should be afraid." The galaxy called Earth to answer for its violence, but Earth didn't send a politician. They sent someone who had survived the very things the stars feared most, and he didn't come to apologize. Galactic Senate Hall, Citadel of Accord, high orbit over Atheri Prime. The chamber buzzed with tension. Over 100 species, bladed, scaled, feathered, chitin-clad, filled the tiers of the Senate Hall, each one speaking in murmurs that fell silent the moment the Terran delegation arrived. Not a convoy, not an entourage, just one man. He walked with a slight limp. His face bore pale scar tissue from what looked like high radiation exposure. His rank insignia was outdated by decades. Colonel Del Marin, retired, human historian of war. The chamber host leaned forward, all four of his eye stalks twitching in confusion. No diplomat. Dal stopped at the center podium and activated a projection crystal. "No lies," he said simply. "Just truth." Playback begins. Earth's history unfolds. Hiroshima. A blast so bright. Some in the chamber flinched, and they had evolved in stars. Then, trenches of Verdun, the orbital glassing of New Brasilia, the AI revolts of Luna Prime, the Mars civil war where civilians detonated their own cities rather than surrender. Screams echoed from the footage. Images showed humans fighting not just aliens, but themselves, across centuries of fire and famine and fallout. And then came the turning point, the silence protocol. Footage of world leaders agreeing to erase half their own weapon stockpiles. Peace, not because they could afford it, but because they had learned what came next. "Dal speaks this," he said, gesturing to the horrors behind him, "is what made us. We didn't unify because we wanted to. We unified because we had to." He pointed upward, toward the hollow of the missing Varnak fleet. "You asked why they vanished. Why we never explained. Why we didn't retaliate further." He leaned forward. voice low and lethal. Because we're not interested in being your threat. But if you demand monsters, he tapped his scar, you'll meet the ones who trained in hell. Senate reaction, shock, denial, and something worse. The silence after his speech was suffocating. A Krillin warlord tried to sneer. So your answer is intimidation? No, Dao replied. Our answer is survival. Another delegate hissed. You could have sent peace. Dao stared at him. We did. You sent ships. We sent warnings. You fired first. We fired once, and we stopped. He looked around the room. Your people think we're monsters. That we have weapons hidden in every moon, every storm, every shadow. He paused. I won't tell you you're wrong. Outside the chamber, aftermath broadcast clips of the speech went viral across galactic, comes within minutes. Some species praised Earth's honesty. Others panicked. Riots broke out in Varna-controlled systems as civilians demanded peace before Earth finishes what it hasn't started. Earth's silence now had shape. Its warning had a voice, and that voice belonged to someone who never wanted to speak again. The Varnak Pact armed their fleets. Their allies whispered of preemptive strikes. The galaxy stood on the edge of a final war, but Earth didn't posture, didn't threaten, didn't even flinch, because sometimes the most dangerous thing a predator can do is wait. Varnak Pact War Room, orbiting Kestal Thayer inside the High Command Chamber, was heavy with dread. Not tension dread. Operation Starvale is prepared, growled War Chancellor Drask. If we are to strike, it must be now, before Earth escalates again. And if they don't escalate, asked one advisor. They will, Drask said, though his voice lacked conviction. They always do. But across the chamber, another screen activated. Live broadcast. Unauthorized. Thousands of protesters on Varnak worlds. Some were holding banners with a new symbol, the Earth Standard, wrapped in white peace rings. Others held signs written in broken Terran. No more. Not Earth. We attack. We vanish. Do not provoke the dead planet. Drask's claws dug into the table. Even their own people were afraid, and Earth hadn't lifted a finger. Earth Pacific Communications Array, Terran Broadcast Tower. The Council debated for hours. Some wanted retaliation, preemptive strikes, a final show of force. Commander Yuan simply sat and listened. Finally, they turned to her. Your opinion. She stood and walked to the central console, typed a single line, and hit transmit. The message galaxy-wide broadcast. No warning, no pomp, just one video. No diplomats, no generals, no threats. A Terran farmer. He stood in a field, soil-stained hands at his sides, mountains behind him, a city in the far distance. He looked directly at the camera. We are not your enemy, but we don't run, we don't kneel, and if you force us to choose, we end what you start. He paused, then smiled, not kindly, just honestly. We're still here. You already lost the moment you needed to ask if we'd fight back. Cut to black, Kestal Fleet Yards. Hours later, Varnak's ship commander stood before his vessel. Crew lined up behind him. He didn't board. Instead, he removed his insignia and placed it on the landing ramp. All around him, across dozens of hangars, other crews followed suit. No orders, no revolts, just refusal. They would not fire first. They would not join a war that wouldn't start with Earth but would surely end there. Civilian worlds. The turning point. The dominoes fell fast. The Dravati pulled out of the pact. The Shul declared Earth protected territory. The Fraskin offered peace talks unconditionally. Even black market warlords began erasing Earth from target lists. Not out of fear, but out of something deeper. Certainty that Earth was a line no one wanted to cross. Earth. UN Council Room. Reyes watched the feed. Silence. Fleet movements cancelled. Systems standing down. It's over, he asked. UN nodded. Not over, she said. Just understood. He looked at her, confused. What do we do now? She smiled faintly. We farm. We build. We teach. We stay exactly who we are. She turned off the screen. Because now, they finally believe us. The Varnak Pact armed their fleets. Their allies whispered of preemptive strikes. The galaxy stood on the edge of a final war. But Earth didn't posture, didn't threaten, didn't even flinch, because sometimes the most dangerous thing a predator can do is wait. Varnak Pact War Room orbiting Keshtalf air inside the High Command Chamber was heavy with dread. Not tension dread. Operation Starvale is prepared, growled War Chancellor Drask. If we are to strike, it must be now, before Earth escalates again. And if they don't escalate, asked one advisor. They will, Drask said, though his voice lacked conviction. They always do. But across the chamber, another screen activated. Live broadcast, unauthorized. Thousands of protesters on Varnak worlds. Some were holding banners with a new symbol, the Earth Standard, wrapped in white peace rings. Others held signs written in broken Terran. No more, not Earth. We attack, we vanish. Do not provoke the dead planet. Drask's claws dug into the table. Even their own people were afraid, and Earth hadn't lifted a finger. Earth Pacific Communications Array, Terran Broadcast Tower. The Council debated for hours. Some wanted retaliation, preemptive strikes, a final show of force. Commander UN simply sat and listened. Finally, they turned to her. Your opinion? She stood and walked to the central console, typed a single line, and hit transmit. The message, galaxy-wide broadcast, no warning, no pomp. Just one video, no diplomats, no generals, no threats. A Terran farmer, he stood in a field, soil-stained hands at his sides, mountains behind him, a city in the far distance. He looked directly at the camera. We are not your enemy, but we don't run, we don't kneel, and if you force us to choose, we end what you start. He paused, then smiled, not kindly, just honestly. We're still here. You already lost the moment you needed to ask if we'd fight back. Cut to black. Keshto Fleet Yards. Hours later, Varnak ship commander stood before his vessel. Crew lined up behind him. He didn't board. Instead, he removed his insignia and placed it on the landing ramp. All around him, across dozens of hangars, other crews followed suit. No orders, no revolts. Just refusal. They would not fire first. They would not join a war that wouldn't start with Earth but would surely end there. Civilian worlds. The turning point. The dominoes fell fast. The Dravati pulled out of the pact. The Shul declared Earth protected territory. The Frascan offered peace talks unconditionally, even black market. Warlords began erasing Earth from target lists, not out of fear, but out of something deeper, certainty that Earth was a line no one wanted to cross. Earth UN Council. Rumrayus watched the feed. Silence. Fleet movements cancelled. Systems standing down. It's over, he asked. UN nodded. Not over, she said. Just understood. He looked at her, confused. What do we do now? She smiled faintly. We farm. We build. We teach. We stay exactly who we are. She turned off the screen. Because now, they finally believe us. Empires rose. Fleets shifted. New coalitions formed. But one unspoken truth remained, etched into the stars like a scar, no matter who ruled. No one fired the first shot at Earth again. Decades later, the Outer Rim, trade convoy, BX-491A minor. Freighter drifted through contested space, its hull patched with ion burns from an earlier skirmish. Inside, the pilota young Serrani nervously tracked a growing signal. Unmarked vessel, interceptor class, not responding. The navigator gulped. Should we run? The captain, older, scarred, just leaned back in his chair. Let's see the flag a beat. The ship decloaked, matte black, angular, silent. Then the flag appeared, Earth standard, no weapons powered, no message sent, no movement. The young pilot panicked. Should I hail them? The captain shook his head slowly. They're not here for us. And they weren't. The Earth ship drifted past like a two watching, waiting. They weren't enforcers. They were reminders. Galactic Senate, 4-0. Years after the first shot, the chamber looked different now. More seats, new species. But at the center still stood the Terran representative. Not a soldier, not a farmer, a linguist. She wore a simple robe and read from a book made of paper. And so, the first shot echoed. But what echoed louder was the silence that followed, because silence can hold fear and peace and power all at once. She closed the book. No one ever needed to fire again. They only needed to remember. Unknown world, battlefield that never was, an ancient war front, long since abandoned, now served as a museum. A child walked past holograms of warships, kinetic slugs, and blast craters from when Earth struck back. He turned to his father. Why did Earth stop? The man paused, thought for a long time, then answered quietly. Because they knew what would happen if they didn't, and so did everyone else. Earth Glacier Base, Antarctico Commander UN, now older and retired, stood at the edge of a research installation. White winds blew past her. She looked at the stars, arms behind her back. Beside her stood a cadet, wide-eyed, fresh from training. Ma'am, he asked, why do we still prepare if no one dares attack us anymore? She turned, gaze hard, but calm. Because one day, someone will forget. She faced the horizon, and when they do, we remind them. Final scene. The words that echoed across timing, 100 different languages, etched into the walls of embassies, carved into the entry halls of starships, and written into the AI protocols of every major power. Do not provoke Earth. We warned you once. We will not warn you again. And somewhere, deep in the dark void between stars, a probe drifted silently still, transmitting a message meant for anyone listening. We don't seek war, but if you bring it, we finish it.